This video is an average user's experience review of the entry-level hi-fi system, the Vanatoo Transparent One Encore Plus. So right off the bat, I want to offer a few disclaimers. First, I am not an audiophile. My speaker takes are always going to be based on my actual real-world listening and using experience, not just stats and numbers. For a more detailed technical review and breakdown, I've left some resources down in the description below. Right below that like button, which you should hit if you end up enjoying the video. The other disclaimer is that Vanatoo did send me these speakers for free for review, but as with all of my other videos, integrity is super important to me. You're only ever going to get my honest thoughts on these. Got that? Okay, good. Now let's talk about these, spoiler alert, unbelievable speakers. First, we need to talk a little bit about setup, whereby these are super simple, but very flexible. If you've already watched this video I've made of the Vanatoo Transparent Zero Plus, which are the little siblings of these speakers, feel free to skip this section as everything in here is gonna be almost exactly the same. In short, these speakers contain everything you need to run them right out of the box. Because these are powered or active speakers, Vanatoo actually calls them a speaker system, you don't need any other audio equipment to get these running right away. So as opposed to passive speakers, which require their own amp or receiver, these actually contain an internal amp and DAC, which allows it to generate its own sound and have tuning options and all this other stuff we'll come back to in a little bit. That internal amp and DAC is built into the back of the right speaker, and it includes every input option you could possibly need: analog, USB, digital optical, digital coax, and Bluetooth 5. While Vanatoo doesn't include every cable for every single input, you get all of the essentials in the box, including a 3.5mm to RCA cable, a standard 3.5mm cable, a USB-B to A cable, a power cord, a remote, and the super long speaker connection cable. Be ready to do some serious cable management if you run these at your desk. So with that setup out of the way, let's talk about the speaker design. From the jump, these are fairly standard and unassuming, especially with that magnetic speaker grille covering the drivers. They are also very compact, shockingly so, as we'll talk about in a little bit, at only 10 inches in height. So the right speaker is actually slightly deeper because it functions as the home for that built-in DAC. Also, one neat little feature I've never seen before is the ability to actually switch which one functions as the right speaker, just in case the placement that you have these in your room necessitates that the control panel is actually on the left side. So as you can see, the overall footprint is not just compact, it's also very classic in its design. There's nothing fancy going on here, which for most people, including myself, is a good thing. I like a sleek and minimal aesthetic. Look a little closer, you're gonna see that the outer material is real wood with stained black finish, and they do offer a real cherry wood veneer option as well. And with the grille removed, you're seeing something way cooler, which is the 5.25-inch woofer and the 1-inch tweeter made out of aluminum. On the back of the speaker is this passive radiator, which is powered by Vanatoo's patented clear bass technology. As opposed to a more traditional ported design, this offers a much deeper and louder bass response, which is typically difficult to find on speakers of this compact nature, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. Finally, on the right speaker only, as mentioned earlier, is the full suite of connectivity options with adjustment knobs for tuning the sound signature, something that, again, is fairly rare for speakers that I've tested of this size class. Overall, I'm actually a fan of this design. When they're on my desk with the grills removed, they do a good job at standing out just enough without being overbearing. So they look cool, but they don't draw too much attention, which is just the way I like it. I'm just gonna say it. These are the single best home entry-level speakers I have ever listened to in my life. Now, I know that's a grand statement, but hear me out. So we'll talk more about what entry level means in a little bit, but in terms of clarity, bass punch, soundstage, I have not listened to anything better. The bass was absolutely unreal, to the point where I had to turn the knob down since it was rattling my walls when I played some EDM tracks. In fact, let me read you a text I got from my neighbor, which I felt really bad about, by the way. We completely worked it out, it's totally fine. But what did he say initially? This was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I was testing these out. He said, "Can you please turn the music down a little bit? The bass is literally making my shades shake." And this is all without having a subwoofer hooked up, which should tell you all you need to know about the low end output of these things. The bass is super tight, there's no overshoot, it's not rumbling longer than the music intends. And beyond the bass, I was equally shocked by the clarity and the soundstage. It's incredibly expansive. Just like the Transparent Zero Plus, the little sibling from Vanatoo, I felt like the vocals were right behind the monitor. It's actually insane to me how present the music was within the room. It didn't feel like the instruments were coming out of the speakers, it felt like they were coming from all around me. It literally made me want to go through my entire music library and listen to everything all over again, like I had never listened to them before in my life, and I needed to hear them again for the first time, how they really sounded. There are other cool features I haven't mentioned yet that really function as like a cherry on top, because if you've heard the sound from these, you're probably already considering a purchase. As I mentioned before, the ability to swap the left and right speakers is a nice option. You can change the center channel point. There's Bluetooth in there, but by far, the coolest option for me personally are those adjustment knobs. If you want more low end, crank the bass knob up. If you want more high end, crank the treble. Want less? Turn them down. You have ultimate flexibility in creating a sound profile that works for you with these speakers. On that bass front specifically, cranking that knob up doesn't necessarily give you more frequency extension. You're not gonna be hearing more details suddenly in the lowest low end of your music and movies, but you're just getting more bass, like more bigger room-filling bass. And as we've talked about, it can be a bit overbearing and going too much, and you end up losing some detail in the music, so I generally keep that knob tuned a little bit past the default. Beyond the speakers themselves, I do appreciate the attention to detail that Vanatoo has put into every aspect of the process, from the very dense but ultimately very informative and easy to read manual that they include with all of the different customizations and how to get that all going, as well as even the box it comes in has like a carrying handle. It's really nice stuff. So the plus in the name of these speakers implies an upgrade over the previous generation, and while I haven't tested those other ones, I do want to walk through some of those changes just in case you do have the other ones and are considering an upgrade, or if you're curious. Number one, and I am so thankful that this is part of it, the power cord is detachable, which makes these way more flexible for space setups. There's an improved waveguide on the tweeter, making this sound better in desktop setups as opposed to just large rooms, plus a balance control which lets you change the center point of the speaker in case you're sitting off axis in the room. They said there's other improved internal electronics which I don't really have a way of quantifying, but in general they said it provides a more accurate, flat frequency response for the bass. And lastly, you can control the output of an attached subwoofer using the included Vanatoo remote. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a way to test that. I don't have a subwoofer anymore, though I'm considering maybe getting one in the future. I feel like Vanatoo should consider making a subwoofer in the future just because I'm so curious if they're able to achieve such good bass out of this compact of a design. I'd be so curious to hear what bass would sound like out of a compact subwoofer as well. Okay, let's talk price. Here's the thing, these are not cheap. They're just not. $650 is a lot of money. There are great powered speakers for well under this price that I've tested, stuff that's $150, $200, but these sound as good as they cost, if not better, and are at the uppermost limit of this entry-level hi-fi tier bracket, whatever, almost breaking into that next tier. So I'm just making broad generalizations here, but let's just say we broke it down between entry-level home audio, then enthusiast audiophile stuff, and then professional reference studio quality audio gear. These are at the uppermost of this first tier, if not breaking into this next tier, but they do not cost nearly as much as stuff in this middle enthusiast audiophile tier, stuff that would be $750 or more. Honestly, most are like $1,000. And again, once you exit that first bracket, you're gonna be spending way more money on speakers, not to mention they're probably passive speakers, which means you're buying other audio components like receivers and amps and speaker wires and all these other components. And I just feel like this stuff is ready to go. These Vanatoos are ready to go right out of the box, and they sound so good. Because of how accurate and neutral these sound too, I'm planning to use these at my desk setup as more of a reference audio system. They might be a bit overkill for a desk setup, as I think these work wonderfully for home theater too, but these are gonna help a lot when I'm doing mixes and listening for videos like this one. So you can probably tell from my enthusiasm that I'm a big fan of these speakers. I think they sound incredible, and they're an easy recommend from me. They've got excellent clarity, tight and powerful bass, and an expansive soundstage that really puts you in the room with the music and media that you're enjoying. They are expensive, but to me, they earn that price tag and beat out other competitors that are more expensive. Now, Vanatoo makes one other speaker system right now, which is the even more compact and uniquely designed Transparent Zero Plus speakers, which I've mentioned earlier. I should have a full review up on the channel already of those cheaper, smaller speakers, just in case these are out of your budget range or they're just a little too big. Or just click the link on the screen now and that should take you right to the review. And if you've made it to the end, please don't forget to hit that like button. It helps the channel out immensely, and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos like this one. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.